Hey, this is Adrienne from Astrology, A Look Inside. This is officially my first astrology video, and I wanted to do this because I love astrology, and I speak astrologies all the time, and it is such a major time astrologically right now, with Saturn where it is, where Pluto. With Pluto where it is, with Uranus where it is, Jupiter where it is. It's amazing because your Saturn and Pluto are about to, they're going to collide soon, which I'm a little bit nervous about this because I personally am a Capricorn, and Saturn and Pluto are in the signs of Capricorn. And it's been a really different kind of couple of months since Saturn has gone into Capricorn. But it's affecting everybody differently. Like my daughter has Capricorn that stretches through her 7th, 8th, and a little bit of her 9th houses. I think, yeah, 7th, 8th, and 9th houses. And I had told her that, this is really maybe a twice or 3 times in a lifetime event, having Saturn, do what it does, because it takes 28 years before Saturn gets back to the last place it was. So I let her know that the 7th house and 8th house really rules partnerships and money and doing well, because she's a Virgo with her sun, moon, and Mercury in Virgo. She's got Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius all in the 6th house. So, and she's got Mars action in Capricorn in the 8th house of money. Yeah, exactly. So I told her, I'm like, look, this is a once in a lifetime event. You are about to go into a situation where you can make massive amounts of money, but you got to time it just right. I mean, it's fast. It is really quick moving because one sign covers 3 houses, and each sign has only 30 degrees. So, no matter how you look at it, you've got 30 degrees to stretch through 3 houses. So it went through the 7th house pretty quick. It's in the 8th house of money. And I think that with this new moon, or excuse me, the full moon that is about to occur in Scorpio, that's going to happen in her 6th house. It's going to be sextile that Mars that she has in the 8th house. I really believe she's going to get some amazing partnerships or money because of this particular transit. Now, back to Sagittarius. Okay, as you can see, I get a little excited sometimes because I've got Aquarius in the 1st house, and I've got Saturn conjunct Mercury in my 1st house in Aquarius. So I get really excited about astrology and things like that. Okay. So right now, Saturn is, I think, at 9 degrees Capricorn. And so that means it's going out of that 1st decanty and into the 2nd. So it's really starting to get deep into Capricorn now. And it is also approaching an actual conjunction with Pluto, which is what is really kind of driving me right now. I'm nervous about it, but I want to talk about that. But I want to talk about that in conjunction with this Jupiter in Scorpio. Jupiter in Scorpio, wow, it's been a really crazy year with or few months with Jupiter in Scorpio. I started in December dancing because I knew that this meant that Jupiter is abundance, bigger growth, giant, huge stuff. And with Jupiter in the 10th house or the first house, it's going to affect usually your outward appearance. Like if it's in your first house, usually you gain weight. That goes for Venus as well. But when Jupiter hits that 10th house or that first house, it almost always is weight or gluttony of some kind. So I had started dancing in December in preparation for what I'm going through now, because from May to September, when Saturn goes retrograde, I'm scared because I don't want to regain the weight that I've lost. And and I'm going to go into how this is all going to tie in. So the transformative power of Pluto and the transformative power of Scorpio, right? So I knew as an astrologer that Pluto was going to be going through, first it would hit my sun, cross over my sun, and then it would go into my first house. And I knew that Pluto represents like massive change and growth and just this amazing healing transformative ability. Pluto is known as that phoenix that rises from the ashes. Like you're giving up, everyone's given up, for dead, like you're done. But there you are, you rise from the ashes at the last moment, right? In the 12th hour, Phoenix comes back to life and re-emerges greater than ever, stronger than ever. Well, this actually happened to me. As with someone who has Saturn in the first house, I ended up in a wheelchair. I was broken up. I pretty much had given up on life. With Venus in the 10th house, and I have a Taurus moon, I had gotten up to 500 pounds. And wow, that's a whole nother story with Jupiter. Anyway, I knew that I could heal myself. So when it was getting close to that Pluto crossing over my sun, I had started dancing every day. It turned out, as I thought, I had developed a disease called thrombocytopenia. And no one knew what it was, but there was bleeding and I was losing platelets and all kind of stuff. And pretty much, people were giving me up for dead. I mean, I thought I was going to die, and I just prayed on it, and I believed that I was going to come out on the other side of this, and I did, because I believed I was going to get married, and I did, because I saw that as an astrologer, that it was meant to happen. So there is a huge healing property to Pluto that, wow, it just, I am not even the same woman that I was maybe 5-10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's just totally changed my life. So right now we're in a really amazing time because, as I mentioned, Saturn's going to be approaching that Pluto soon. So that's going to make a lot of big healing changes, sweeping changes, wherever Capricorn is in your chart. If it depends on what house it falls in, of course. Now, if it falls in your first house, like it's happening with me, it's going to happen to your body, your physical self. Your first house is always that physical self. If Saturn's going to fall in the second house, then or Pluto's in your second house, then that's something anyway. Pluto in the second house, because it's opposing its own home, which is the 8th house. So if you got Pluto in the second, that's a lot going on right there. But then to have Saturn come, we would need to talk, because Saturn hitting the second house is something. But it will be a transformative, like something out of the blue, maybe even. Saturn on Pluto in the second house, Lord. I'm nervous about Saturn hitting Pluto in the first house. It's only because I know I'm aging, and I'm in my 50s, and I was 500 pounds, and I was in a wheelchair, And I feel like whatever it's doing to me, it's definitely it's doing all right by me. So I'm hoping if I keep eating well and exercising and just trying to, do the right things as a person, that it's going to be a positive experience and not a negative experience, because Pluto tends to be dark and heavy, and it can get a little negative, especially with Saturn. If Saturn's going through your third house, it's going to touch off your communications, maybe some relative issues, your neighborhood, driving, cars, stuff like that could be an issue. The fourth house, it usually deals with home, your house, your family. It can definitely signify, um, wow, Pluto or Saturn in the fourth house is heavy, because Saturn in the fourth house, Saturn wherever it goes, it's pulling in. It's taken from something. It's it's not as positive and outward as it would be if Saturn wasn't there. So yeah, again, you might want to talk to me if you've got something like that, because that Pluto in the fourth house is also major, because the fourth house also rules endings. So it can mean the end of certain things. So that's something to talk about. The fifth house rules like gambling and love and romance and parties and all the good things that people love. You know what I mean? So if Saturn, now if Pluto's there by itself, it's not bad. Well, it could be, because again, wipes things down and it builds them back up again. So you might get torn down to the ashes before you're built back up into that phoenix that rises from those ashes. But with Saturn in the fifth house, it's almost like it's a raining on your joy, because the fifth house is fun. And so when Saturn goes into the fifth house, it's taking away the fun, and that's not good. Now, my daughter went through that, and she went through some issues, with that. She also got married. So fifth house, responsibility. It could definitely rule that you find love, that strong, true, faithful love, because Saturn is responsibility. So it takes it out of the realm of just play and goes into more responsible areas. Sixth house, my daughter had that. The sixth house, Saturn in the sixth house is hard. Oh, Saturn in the sixth house put my daughter in the hospital multiple times. She had trouble with work, just awful experiences with work. But she developed POTS, which is a debilitating health issue. And that's what the sixth house rules: health. It rules health. It rules where you are of service or helping or healing some way. In my daughter's case, she got a job at a hospital. I kid you not, this is all true. She worked at a hospital and was helping homeless people with AIDS find housing. And because of the work that she did, when Saturn crossed over her Saturn, and she ended up running for political office and almost won. That's Saturn and Sag for you, right? The political thing. So, and that reminds me of the next thing: Saturn in the seventh house. Saturn in the seventh house rules your mate or partners or partnerships. So, again, using my daughter, because she's like all I know, really. But she just had the most amazing seventh house experience, where almost immediately after Saturn hit the seventh house, her husband had a seizure, was in the shower, and hurt himself a little. But then he had another seizure the same day. Like Saturn is not to be played with. And I had told her just a few days before that, I said, everything's going great. I mean, it is for her career, everything going great. I said, but something might affect your marriage, because this is all Saturn's now in the seventh house, which is great for partnerships, but it can rule a little extra responsibility, with the marriage, or a little bit of something hard and heavy in that area. And, sure enough, he had gotten that happened to him. So, this stuff is real. Okay, now Saturn in the eighth house. Saturn in the eighth house usually has to deal with things like other people's money. It usually means money. Like, well, it could mean that you have to pay out money, because usually Saturn means it's taking away from. So let's say, for instance, if you were getting payments from others, or you expected them, if you didn't do the work, or whatever it was to lead up to your payments, you might find that your payments stop when Saturn's in the eighth house, or something occurs where you don't get the monies that are due to you. So make sure when Saturn is about to go into the eighth house that you take extra precautions, like make sure your insurance is up to date, that you have some money stashed away, for a rainy day. Make sure you get all the invoices out, because that usually rules people paying you, and people might shyster you out of the money that they owe you during that time, because times might get hard for them. It just prepare for that, because it's going to affect that area. Now, it also covers some other things like psychology, deep, dark secrets like death and stuff like that. But to me, death is more of the fourth house, but it's also it's eighth house. So it's always a possibility that something really like that could happen. So always be on a lookout for that. Saturn in the ninth house is education, it's philosophy, it's travel, it's political stuff. I told my daughter when Saturn hits her ninth house, she should go into work as a diplomat, or work as an ambassador, or something like that, because it's about to go there pretty soon, and she can really take advantage of that. It's a great opportunity. And Saturn's on the rise, which is always positive. Once it gets over that horizon, it's always, it means it's accumulating. And if you've done the work that can lead to positive outcomes, you're going to get that positive outcome. So put in that work prior to Saturn going on the rise like that. And speaking of the rise, then once it passes the ninth house, it hits the 10th house. And that's really where, that's where you either shine or you fail. That rise is a killer. I did not do as good on my rise as I thought. But then when I think about it, I did do my rise, because everyone in their chart has a certain thing that they are here to do. Their pinnacle, their thing, their life reason for being here. And that is usually determined by the North Node. Wherever the North Node is the reason you are in this life right now. Everyone's North Node is in a different place depending on what time they were born. In my case, my North Node is in the 7th house of marriage. And when Saturn hit my 10th house, I got married to the man of my dreams. So I was rewarded, right? I was rewarded by Saturn. And it does reward you when if you're on the right track, you're doing what Saturn wants you to do. It rewards you. They call it the great taskmaster, or the great teacher, because like a teacher, or like in school, you're rewarded at the end of all the hard work. So it's best to get that hard work in and then you get the payoffs later. The problem is Saturn's hard, and I got it in the first house. That's why my butt got up to 500 pounds. It's hard to work with Saturn. I mean, it really once it makes it hard. And in my case, I had dislocated both knees. Isn't that a Capricorn rising thing to do? And ended up in a wheelchair. And that made weight gain inevitable. And that's the kind of thing that Saturn does. So you really have to be on your P's and Q's with Saturn, especially when it's in the 10th house, which is your career and your reputation and your ambition and your fame and, that what people know you as. Like, it's almost like this beacon or sign over your head that says, this is Adrienne and she is fill in the blank, whatever that sign is. It's what shows the world sees that. Okay. So it's important that when Saturn's up in that 10th house, that, I hopefully you've done everything so it's a positive experience. Saturn in the 11th house is unique because it's where it's affecting your associates. It's affecting like the groups you belong to, the organizations you belong to. Like if you're an alumni association or a Rotary Club, or maybe even groups on Facebook or something like that. When Saturn hits this 11th house, it really makes that is a focus. Now, I had Saturn go through the 11th house recently, and it was really weird when it happened because for years I had been on Facebook since like 2008 or 9, and I had this is going to sound silly, but I played Mafia Wars, and I played Mafia Wars religiously. Okay. I played it every single day for about 7 or 8 years. In fact, I met my husband on Mafia Wars. I met my husband playing Mafia Wars. It's crazy, but it's true. So when Saturn hit that 11th house, Mafia Wars closed. It closed after, like, something I never thought would happen happened. I lost my favorite game. Now there's like a little shell of a game, and I still play that with my husband because we're dedicated to it, But it was amazing. I lost so many friends, and when Mafia Wars closed down, and then also, I want to go into what happened to me after that, which is between 2016 and 2017, it went from the 11th house to the 12th house. But let me tell you how it manifested. The 11th house, like I said, rules your friends, it rules your hopes, your dreams, it rules wishes, it rules groups and organizations and associations, and your like people who or that you might have hung out with. It's usually not people great, but it's people good enough. Like usually like people you might go to church with, or you're in some group with for years, and they're what they call the associates. You're associates, right? So when this happened, in my chart, I had a situation where I ended up losing my best friend of 40 years. 40 years. I still can't believe it happened. And it all happened over Trump and that election, that 2018 thing. And even now, I'm still in shock that that happened. But that is Saturn. Saturn comes along and it will knock things out that have been in place for 40 years. In this case, her belief system and my belief system had changed so vastly because I am an Afro-Latina. And of course, I am not for anything that's racist or is going to affect Afro-Latinas. So, it put an end to our friendship after 40 years. And I'm devastated. Even now, I can't believe it. But that's what happens. I lost 700 friends when Saturn went through the 11th house. 700 friends. That's insane. But that's Saturn. Okay. Saturn in the 12th house rules our internal, like that inner voice. All the inner voice is the 12th house, whatever that inner voice is. Now, sometimes it's negative. They call it the house of self-undoing because, the stuff we tell ourselves, anything can go on. Now, when Saturn, and I've got this going on right now, Saturn is still technically in my 12th house, not quite in my first house yet. And what bothers me about this is that the stuff we tell ourselves, I got so much garbage. Now, the beauty is I've done meditation. I got into binaural beats. I found some people on Facebook that were like coaches and did positive motivation, and gotten into different groups that are like Love Vortex and all of that. Namaste. So it's taken me into a deeper, more spiritual place, much more spiritual place than I was at before. In fact, I just restarted Astrology, A Look Inside. Hello, Astrology, A Look Inside. After like 20 years, I kept the name and retained it since, 2000, but I just didn't do anything. I just didn't do anything. But when it got into my 12th house and I started feeling an urge to reach out and help people with astrology, I live it, I breathe it, I know it. I've been studying it since I was 16 and I'm in my 50s. Yeah. So I know it like I know the back of my hand, and I mix astrology with numerology and specific degree studies. And because each degree creates a different dynamic. Each degree does, believe it or not, it does. And so I use that when I do my readings. I invite all of you who somehow stumble onto this video to get one of my readings. I have a website that I created. It's called Astrology, alookinside.com. And that I created that years ago, back when I was doing free reports on MSN. But look inside of ourselves, because that's really what astrology is about. A little different than, some of the palmists that are out there that read the palmistry and stuff like that. Astrology is like a science in my book, and it is like a code. And if you can read that code, you can perhaps prepare for the things that are almost inevitable that are going to happen based on the chart that you had at the time of your birth. So I can discuss those things. I love talking astrology. And what I ask that you do is visit me at astrology.alookinside.com. I have a little blog there. Sign up and subscribe so you can stay in touch with me there. And, I'll be back. This is my first live video, and I'll see how this does. But it was fun talking with everyone today. And I hope that you do come by Astrology and Look Inside. Oh, and you can also find us at our group. It's a Facebook group, and it's just Astrology and Look Inside on Facebook. So I hope to meet with all of you. I do some free readings there. I don't do them as quickly as I do on the website. So do be aware of that. Okay, everyone. It's been great talking to you. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Ooh, and don't forget to prepare for that full moon in Scorpio that happens on the 29th. It's happening at 9 degrees Scorpio, and it is called a hungry pink moon. It is, if you've been feeling hungry and greedy lately, because Lord knows I've been feeling hungry and greedy, it's because of this particular greedy Scorpio moon. Scorpios like to have things. They are intense. And you might be getting intense hunger pains because I've been getting them. We are now 3 days away. And that hungry hippo moon, that greedy moon is really greedy. You know, Scorpio, this particular Scorpio moon is a greedy moon. So beware of that. Good luck with the full moon. And I'll see you at Astrology, a Look Inside on Facebook or astrologyalookinside.com. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.